Okay, let's do 4 more examples. And we're going to look at 3 labor productivities. So 1, 2, and 4 will be labor productivities. And then I threw in one more basketball one just because I like to talk about sports just as much. And it all works. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing in terms of productivity. So let's look at this. 10 workers working for 10 hours per day for 10 days produce 25,000 bats. Okay, let's say they're working at a Louisville Slugger. And so our output, what's being produced, is 25,000 bats. So 25,000 is our output. Okay, that's our output. And then our input is hours. Well, how many hours were put into it? Well, it's 10 workers working 10 hours a day times 10 days. That is our input. So essentially, it's 25,000 divided by 10 times 10 is 100 times 10 is 1,000 over 1,000. So in this case, it should be, just double check, 25,000 divided by 1,000. You shouldn't need a calculator for that, but if you are, I'm going to show you that it's okay to do that. That's going to be, all these zeros cancel out. It is 25 bats per hour. 25 bats per hour are being produced. Okay? So let's look at something a little bit different. This one here, it's similar, but the output is going to be a lot smaller. Sorry if I'm getting really close. 8 workers are working for 8 hours. Okay? And let's just say it's one day, making 30 tables. So in this case, the output, right, what we're producing is 30 tables. And what's being inputted is 8 workers times 8 hours, which is 64. So it's 30 tables over 64 hours, okay? And then you can take that down and be 15 over 32. So whatever 15 over 32 is, so 32 divided 30 divided by 64. That would be 0.469 tables per hour. Or if you want to just take it down, you can say 15-30 seconds, but I like the decimals if I can. So here it's 25 bats per hour. Here it's taking us longer than an hour to make a table, so we're producing this much. So if you're owning the bat place or the table place, what you want to figure out one of 2 things. You either want to, with the same amount of hours, make more tables, or you want to make as many tables having less hours. And there's a million ways you can do that, and most of it's with technology or automation or just doing things better or smarter, okay? But this is the basis for why we look at efficiency, because it helps us get better, okay? And this is in all walks of life. Efficiency just helps. A good example is this YouTube stuff, right? So I'm putting all these videos on YouTube so I can teach this one time and I can teach a whole bunch of kids at once, or I can do this one time and I can use the same video over and over and over. So YouTube essentially is making my job more efficient. I can get more kids taught with the same amount of energy using YouTube, and that's great, and that's why we do it. Okay, let's go down to this bottom one here real fast. It's also a labor efficiency question, but it's way different. Okay, in this case, 5,000 workers are working 500 days, and they're working for 10 hours a day to make 1 aircraft carrier. Okay, so the output for this one is just 1 carrier. And again, it's always important to make sure you're labeling, bats per hour, tables per hour, whatever. This is 1 carrier. So how many hours go into making this? And I'm making this up, although it is an insane number of hours to make a carrier because they're gigantic. In this case, I've got 25 million. 25 million hours. So 1 carrier divided by 25 million hours ends up being point, and then it's 7 zeros. That's 5, 6, 7, 4. 7 zeros for carriers per hour. And you're like, well, that's stupid. Why does that matter? It matters a lot, because if you can actually get this down to 6 zeros in a 4, you are making so much more profit because you're paying way less because it's fewer hours. If you own a business, you want to get your efficiency as high as possible because that means you're paying less to make more stuff. So anyone who owns a business knows that you want to be as productive as possible, as much output with as little input. Okay? And the last one here, let's say Anna Foley shoots the ball 15 times, and let's say she makes 10 of them, and she scores 25 points. Okay? So the question is, in this one, which is tricky, we know the output's 25 points. So this is 25 points. Well, what's the input? Is it the 15 shots or is it the 10 makes? Because she shot the ball 15, but she made 10 of them. Well, if we want to be efficient, and we're talking about efficiency, we're looking at shots. All right? Because, listen, if you shoot the ball 75 times and you score 50 points, it looks great that you scored 50 points, but if you shot the ball all day long, you weren't efficient, you just sucked. Right? So if you can score a bunch of points and not shoot very much, that's pretty awesome. So 15 shots is what we're looking at here, and this would be 5/3, or, and you can put in your calculator, but it should be 1.6. 25 divided by 15, yeah, 1.67, 1 2/3, 1.67 points per shot, and that's awesome. It's to give an example of that in sports. The best example that we've seen probably in your lifetime at UK is Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis took the least amount of shots of the starting lineup when we won the national championship, but he was Player of the Year, National Player of the Year. He was probably the most efficient college basketball player in the last generation. He didn't take many shots, but he made almost all of them. He was insanely efficient, which is, and he's going to be a Hall of Fame player. So these are 4 more examples, plus the other 4 I gave you of how this works.